Hey, New Life Church, this is Pastor Jake here. I'm glad to be with you guys again as we're continuing to read through the Bible TRAC reading plan. We're reading through the book of Psalms. We're in the summer of Psalms, which is awesome. I love Psalms because, man, each psalm is like a prayer. It's a way that, especially in the ancient cultures, they prayed these, they sang these songs. Have you ever gotten a song like stuck in your head and you just find yourself singing the words? And you might not even mean a single thing or even know what it means, and yet you get it stuck in your head. And that is a huge way in which the Psalms, especially the ancient cultures, they would learn and trust in God, as they would just rehearse these Psalms in their minds, like a good song that just gets stuck in their head. And so something that I love about the Psalms is you hear a lot of joyful Psalms, a lot of Psalms that are praising God, but then you hear a lot of suffering and struggling and pain and how they follow God even through the struggles of life. And God sees both as very acceptable, that we can struggle and express our suffering and our pain and still worship God in that. But the one that I want to draw our attention to today is actually one that's like a key. It was a challenge for me because it's like the key to living a filled life, a joyful life, and a satisfied life. And in Psalm 16, we see that David is writing a psalm, and he is just expressing that God is his satisfaction. He starts from the beginning. He says, "Keep me safe, my God, for in you I take refuge." He says, "I say to the Lord, you are my God, and apart from you I have no good thing." He says, apart from God, I have no good thing. And how often do we actually think that and believe that? We might say it in our mind. We might think, apart from God, there's nothing good in this world. But how often do we live as if God is just another part of our life? He isn't the source of our joy or anything like that. He is just another thing that gives us happiness. So we might say, hey, I like eating, I like to dance, I like music, I like art, I like all these things, and I love to follow Jesus. It's like we put Jesus in this category of the other things that we enjoy. And David just says it straight out. He says, apart from God, I have nothing that is good. There's nothing that is good. And so he knows that God is who satisfies him. And then he warns, he says, those who run after other gods will suffer more and more. Those who try to find satisfaction in life apart from God, you're only going to find suffering. True joy and satisfaction is found in how David says, you are my Lord, and apart from you I have no good thing. He goes on to say in verse 5, he said, you alone are my portion and my cup. He says, you are all that I need. Especially when it's like the idea of a hunger, or you're at the dinner table. I don't need any of that. I don't need any of this. All I need right here is my portion of Yahweh, of my Father. And he says, you make my lot secure. He trusts in God and he loves them. And then he goes on to say in verse 8, he says, I keep my eyes on the Lord, and with him at my right hand, I will not be shaken. He knows anytime he's in a place of pain, suffering, anything, he says, I fix my eyes on the Lord, because I know that although the waves seem treacherous, if we give the illustration of being like on the ocean, the waves seem treacherous. If we're in a storm, it seems hopeless, but I know that I'm not going to pay attention to the waves or the storm or the fire or whatever. I'm going to fix my eyes on Jesus. And so he says, when I fix my eyes on Yahweh and make him and trust that he is at my right hand, I will not be shaken. And so he says, therefore my heart is glad and my tongue rejoices, because he fixes his eyes on the Lord, and my body will rest secure. He has security. He has such satisfaction in the Lord. And he says, because you won't abandon me at all, and you are faithful. And then in verse 11, he says, you make known to me the path of life. He says, you have shown me what true living is like. This is what true living is like. He says, you will fill me with joy in your presence. Guys, there is no greater joy than being in the presence of God. And that's something I've been praying for more and more every single day. I'm like, God, please help me to be more aware of your presence in my life. Because if I know and I see and I experience and I feel your presence in my life, I know that there's no struggles, there's no suffering, there's no pain that could ever compare to the joy that I have in Jesus Christ. And so he says, you fill me with the joy in your presence, with eternal pleasures at your right hand. David knows the truth. The truth of having a joyful, satisfied life is found completely in his Lord and Savior, the one who rescues him, the one who's redeemed him, the one who loves him. And so we know that for sure. We also have that same promise of security in Jesus, the one who gave himself up for us, the one who he took our place on the cross, and he took our sinfulness into himself, and then he blessed us with his righteousness. He's constantly just good and giving, even when we don't feel it. But whenever we don't feel it, what we do is what David says, is we fix our eyes on Jesus. So I pray this week that you guys are able to fix your eyes on Jesus, and I pray that you guys are also able to experience the presence of the Lord in such a way that it just fills you with joy no matter what you're going through. God bless you guys.